She was fat, she was black, and to them, that meant disposable. Megan Williams was 20, black, heavy, quiet, the kind of girl they pointed at, laughed at, passed over. They thought she was an easy target, a throwaway, so they took her. 6 of them, all white, all grinning like devils. They didn't just kidnap her, they tried to erase her. For 7 straight days they beat her, starved her, burned her, carved into her skin, called her every name they could think of. What they didn't know was that she'd been surviving long before they ever laid hands on her. This wasn't just a crime. It was a reckoning, and she wasn't the victim they expected her to be. She didn't just survive. She made sure they remembered her name. Before the headlines, before the blood and the fear, there was just Megan Williams, 20 years old, fat, black, invisible to the world, until the day she couldn't be ignored. She wasn't some activist. She wasn't trying to be famous. She just wanted to breathe, to live. She liked honey buns in the morning and slow R&B at night, wrote poems in the back of old-school notebooks, stuff about hurt, about being unseen, about being too much and not enough, all at once. She joked too loud, cried in silence, and when people stared, she stared back until they looked away. She knew what they whispered. Fat bitch, black gorilla. Who would want her? But Megan had more strength in her than most of them had in their whole bodies. She just didn't advertise it. She walked like the world was a battlefield, not because she wanted war, but because peace never showed up. Bullied in school, ignored in stores, followed around by cops, talked down to by teachers, talked over by everyone. But she kept showing up, kept writing, kept breathing, kept living, because Megan wasn't built to break. She wasn't soft. She wasn't naive. She wasn't weak. She just wanted one thing, to be treated like a human being. But this world doesn't give grace to girls like her. And one day, when she least expected it, when she thought she was going to chill, laugh, maybe get out of town for a bit, evil knocked on her door. She never saw it coming. But when it came, when they took her, when they tried to erase her, she gave them hell, because Megan never went looking for trouble. But trouble always knew where to find her. And this time, it picked the wrong girl. Megan just needed a break, a few days away from the noise, the judgment, the weight of being her every single day. She caught a ride with someone she barely knew, not because she trusted them, but because when you're a big black girl from the wrong side of town, safety isn't something you get to demand. You take what's offered, even when it feels wrong. They ended up in Logan County, West Virginia, a place stuck in time, where the flags didn't always wave red, white, and blue. The air felt different there, heavy, like history hadn't moved on. It just changed clothes. It started simple, at a rundown gas station on a back road. Megan walked in with $5 and a flip phone. She asked for a soda, maybe a cigarette. The clerk just stared, didn't say a word. Then, finally, "We don't serve your kind without supervision." She blinked, thought it was a joke, laughed nervously. He didn't. 2 minutes later, the phone rang behind the counter. He picked it up, said, "Yeah, she's here. Big one," then hung up. That was her cue to leave. But where was she supposed to go? She was alone. No car, no backup, no one coming. Outside, a white boy leaned on a truck, chewing tobacco. Watching her, he spat near her shoes and muttered, "Jungle whale." His friends laughed behind him. One pulled out a phone and took a picture. Just a fat black girl, minding her business. And that was enough for them to make her a target. Megan didn't flinch, didn't look at them. She'd been called worse, and by now, swallowing that kind of hate felt routine. But here's the thing. Her silence, her calm, it pissed them off. Because people like that don't just want you gone. They want you humiliated, crushed, powerless. Then came Frankie Brewster, white, mid-40s, dead eyes, crooked smile. She smelled like smoke and something meaner. Said she knew the guy Megan came with. Said he was waiting for her at the house. Said she could take Megan there. Said it'd be safe. Megan hesitated. Her gut said, don't. Everything in her body screamed, get away. But the world had taught her something cruel. That her instincts didn't matter. That people like her didn't get to act on fear. Only survive it. So she got in the car. And the moment that door shut, the story changed. That was the last time Megan would see sunlight for 7 days. Now, here's what they don't tell you in court transcripts. Hate doesn't always show up in a white hood. Sometimes it wears a badge. Sometimes it signs school diplomas. Sometimes it stands behind a bench and bangs a gavel. The DA tried to call it a simple assault. The sheriff said it wasn't a hate crime. The judge asked why Megan went with them in the first place. Nobody asked why 6 white people had knives, lighters, and slurs, ready like it was rehearsed. Nobody asked how Megan ended up naked, bruised, and chained in a house full of monsters. Nobody asked what would have happened if she didn't escape. Because in their eyes, she was just another poor black girl from the wrong zip code. And when justice looks like you don't feel the urgency to serve it. Megan's very existence was the offense, and in that town, that was more than enough to justify the crime. When they got there, the house smelled like mildew, smoke, and something worse, something rotting. Megan stepped inside, and the door slammed shut behind her, and in that instant, she knew she wasn't going anywhere. They told her to sit. She didn't move. So they made her. They started with names. Fat bitch. Black monkey. No, whore. Then came the fists, the belts, the burning cigarettes, hot metal pressed to skin that never got to heal. There were 6 of them, 4 men, 2 women, all white, all high, all laughing like it was a party. They cut her hair, forced her to eat dog feces, poured hot water over her body, sliced into her skin with knives just to watch her bleed. They said they were teaching her a lesson. Said, this is what you get when you think you can walk around like you're somebody. They made her strip, made her beg, made her say she hated herself, made her scream things she didn't believe, just to survive another hour. And every time she cried, they mocked her. Every second was meant to erase her. Not just her body, but her voice, her soul, her dignity. But what they didn't know was that Megan had learned to go numb long before that house. She learned to retreat into herself like a locked room with no windows. They could hurt her, but they couldn't own her. And that is what saved her. 7 days passed. No food, no phone, no one looking. Until one of them slipped up, left a phone within reach, and Megan, barely conscious, bleeding, shaking, called for help, whispered the address like a prayer, then dropped the phone before they noticed. It was enough. An officer showed up, knocked, walked in, and saw the impossible. A girl who shouldn't have been alive, standing, naked and bruised, but not broken. She didn't wait to be rescued. She rescued herself. Because that's the thing about girls like Megan. The world keeps trying to silence them, but they keep screaming anyway. And now the system had no choice but to listen, or pretend to.
Megan thought the worst was over when she got out. But survival was just the first war. The second was against the system that was supposed to protect her. She walked into that courtroom black, poor, and loud with trauma. And to them, that was already too much. They didn't see a victim. They saw a problem. Something messy, inconvenient. From the jump, the story didn't fit their script. She didn't look how they wanted, didn't cry on cue, didn't speak in neat little sound bites. She was angry. She was broken. She was human. And they punished her for it. They had medical reports, bruises, burns, cigarette scars on her thighs. They had witness statements. They had video evidence. But somehow they kept asking if she was lying. They said, she changed her story, but never asked why trauma makes memory flicker like a dying light bulb. They said she went with them willingly, but never questioned what coercion looks like for a girl taught her whole life not to say no. They said, why didn't she run sooner? But never asked what it feels like to have your spirit locked in a cage your body can't escape. And just like that, the attention shifted, the focus turned, the headlines got quieter. Justice became performance. The trials, quick, sloppy. Most of the charges dropped. None of them hit with hate crimes. Not one. They called it closure. But what Megan got was a cover-up. She was discredited, treated like a liar, like a girl chasing fame, not one who'd crawled her way out of hell. For a while, Megan was silent. Not because she was scared, but because she was listening, watching, calculating. She knew what the world thought of girls like her. They wanted her to vanish, wanted her to fade into another cautionary tale, another "what a shame" headline. But something in her had changed. That house didn't just leave scars on her skin. It woke something up inside. Something old, something unbreakable. The rage, the grief, the raw betrayal of knowing justice was never designed for her. She turned all of it into fuel, and she made a choice. If they weren't going to protect her, she'd protect herself. Louder, sharper, smarter. She started speaking up. In interviews, in courtrooms, in front of people who never saw her before. Now they had no choice. They tried to discredit her again, said she was lying, confused, ungrateful. But Megan didn't flinch, because this time, she wasn't alone. A local journalist, black, female, tired of seeing the same cycle, started digging. Found missing case files, unsealed court records, wrote what others were too afraid to publish. A public defender, underpaid, overworked, but with a spine like steel, started asking the right questions in court. A grassroots activist group picked up her story. They made noise, rallied, pressed the DOJ to re-examine hate crime charges that were conveniently swept away. Megan began to learn the game, the legal language, the power of public pressure, the difference between silence and strategy. She knew now. She couldn't undo what happened, but she could make damn sure it didn't disappear. The world wanted Megan to shut up. Instead, she became a storm. And when people finally started listening, they didn't just hear her story. They heard their own silence, their own complicity, their own guilt. This wasn't just about Megan anymore. It was about every girl who's been told she's too loud, too dark, too fat, too angry to matter. And Megan? She was just getting started. Courtrooms don't care about truth. They care about performance. And on the final judgment day, Megan wasn't just telling her story. She was making them feel it. The prosecution read her statement again, slower this time. Every word heavy as bricks. Descriptions of cigarette burns, forced feedings, the N-word thrown like it was punctuation. The defense? They looked like cornered animals. Whispers, nervous glances. No more smirks now. And Megan? She didn't blink, didn't flinch, didn't fold. This was her arena now, not theirs. The jury went out. Hours passed. A full day. Some thought that meant doubt, but Megan knew better. She knew America has a hard time punishing whiteness, especially when it hurts black girls who don't fit the fairy tale. Then the door creaked open. The room stood still. The bailiff read it out loud. Guilty. On kidnapping. On assault. On intent to harm. But hate crime? Not guilty. They heard the screams, saw the bruises, listened to the slurs, but somehow, they still couldn't see the hate. Megan didn't cry. She just nodded. She'd already won what mattered. Because they wanted her broken, wanted her quiet. And instead, she walked out stronger. Not a victim, not even a survivor, but a disruptor. Someone who changed the air in that courtroom forever. After the cameras left, after the headlines faded, after justice had been both served and denied, Megan went home. She didn't vanish. They tried to forget her name, bury the headlines, move on. But she refused to be a footnote. She stayed loud, kept showing up, kept saying the words that made people shift in their seats. She launched a non-profit, small, scrappy, fueled by rage and love. Focused on black girls, fat girls, forgotten girls. She told them the world was wrong about them. That surviving isn't shameful. That healing is a revolution. The laws didn't change. Not really. West Virginia didn't rewrite its hate crime statutes. There were no sweeping reforms, no apologies from the judges who looked the other way. But the ripples? They're real. A school counselor in Alabama now teaches Megan's story. A state senator in Ohio quoted her words during a hate crime hearing. A young girl in Detroit, big, brown-skinned, scared, said she kept living because she saw Megan speak once on her phone. That's legacy. Not a statue, not a courtroom victory, but a fire passed hand to hand. Megan lives quiet now, mostly offline, but her voice, still echoing, still rattling the bones of a country that never really wanted to hear her. If Megan's story shook you, don't let it stop here, because somewhere out there, another girl is walking into the same trap. Share Megan's story. Speak her name, because silence is what keeps this cycle breathing. Subscribe to True Crime Teen Network. Drop a comment. Tell us what you felt, what you saw, what they don't want us to say out loud. Because every share, every voice, every view is one step closer to justice.